adult audience. The Dirty Dowdy podcast may contain material that may be unsuitable for sensitive ears. Listener discretion is advised. It's the Dirty Dowdy podcast.
All right, it's the Dirty Dowdy podcast coming to you from Longbox.FM, brought to you, of course, by Riley's Brewing. And tonight, roll one for me sushi again.
Thanks, roll one for me sushi again.
Thanks, roll one for me and Riley's.
Well done. Stumble all over that.
We practice words.
So our normal show tonight is not going to be our normal show that you're used to tuning into every Wednesday night. Tonight, as we've been talking about for a while, we're doing the political thing again. Woo. This time, we didn't come in with anger and vitriol hatred for us from one side of the line or the other.
We'll get there, though.
Give us another 10 minutes, and I'm sure that something will happen. But tonight, we're doing our District 6 debate campaign, talking with all the candidates, most of the candidates. Unfortunately, Holly Carter could not make it tonight, so we have a sign waiting for her. We'll put that sign next to Joaquin Arambulas, but she has the, if she's listening, she knows the address. Come in and join us. We'd love to hear from you. If you guys are listening at home, you can participate in multiple ways tonight. We got the Skype up and working, so if you hit us up, Longbox.FM, search on there. You can ask your questions. You can get on the mic, the camera, all that stuff. Also, you can call us at 492-0450, or just join us with the tweet, hashtag 559VOTE. We'll find your tweet, and we'll make sure to ask the question to the candidates that are here tonight. Tonight we do have, I want to call you the kid, Carter Pope II. Go ahead.
I like that better.
Yeah, the kid. So we got him hanging out. We got Garry Bredefeld and Jeremy. Oh my God. I'm doing that.
Use your words.
Yeah, Jeremy
Chris.
Pearce.
Come on.
Jeremy Pearce. I'm all like jittery. I'm like Ray Appleton jittery again. So, plus I had a lot of Red Bull getting ready for this.
And you slept till 1.
Yeah, and you can see that the house is actually cleaned today.
So that means you slept till noon and then woke up and cleaned?
Okay, you calm down. Just because the job thing changed doesn't mean I get up on time. So anyways, tonight we're going to be talking about everything involving District 6. And if you don't know what district that is everything from Bullard North and Blackstone to Willow. And if you live in there, you probably want to listen to what's going on right now. The election is going on June 7th, and it's time to get your voice out there. No more excuses. I hate people who have every excuse in the world not to vote. Your vote doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. We went through this the last time we did this.
The polling places are open until 8 p.m.
Yeah, you have every excuse in the world. You can actually get out of work to go vote. It's a legal right for you. So if you want that extra long lunch break, go vote. At least use that as an excuse to get yourself a hoagie. Tonight, for our candidates in the room, this is going to be a little bit different than what you guys have been doing with TV and radio and just your normal appearances elsewhere. We like to get to know the candidate. We want to know the person that's running, not just your views, not just the typical rhetoric that you will say to any kind of question. We are not going to hold you to a 90-second limit. We want you to explain your answers as fully as you can, because an idea sometimes cannot be contained in 90 seconds. If you don't feel comfortable answering something because you don't have the knowledge, I'm okay with you saying I just don't know or I don't feel comfortable saying that. And that's a very honest thing. I won't knock you for it, and I hope anyone listening doesn't knock you guys for it. No one knows everything. No one's going to agree with everything, but this is your chance listening tonight to listen to these candidates talking and decide who's the best bet for you. So we're going to be doing all that tonight. And again, you can call in 492-0450. Cuddy's also watching and manning the YouTube chat room. So if we see anything going up with a question, we will get you on. We do want to hear from people, so please participate tonight. This is for you guys. So with that, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to start this off. We're going to get our questions, start going around the table, and start getting to know the candidates. It's all going on here. It's a Dirty Dowdy podcast on Longbox.FM.
listening to the Dirty Dowdy Podcast on Longbox.FM.
For a sushi experience like no other, just say, roll one for me. Japanese cuisine expertly prepared and beautifully served in a fun, family-friendly environment. Make your next lunch or dinner unique. Roll one for me, a sushi joint on Champlain and Shepherd.
The Dirty Daddy Podcast is back here in the Longbox.FM studios, brought to you by Riley's Brewing.
Thanks, Riley's.
And tonight, with a plate full of sushi, brought to you by Roll One For Me. I'm sure we'll hear from Steve here later on in the show with probably a question or two for the candidates.
Sure.
And during the next break, we're going to just devour that plate that you see on the table. And again, if you have questions, call in 492-0450 or hit us up in the chat room. It's all over the screen. I'm not going to force you. So, to start off with this, because this is our second go-around with politics. It was something that we got involved in early on with Clint Olivier and the whole brouhaha that exploded with the ad and all that, and put us on the map. Thanks, Joaquin.
Yeah, we're getting pretty good at this.
Yeah, the DNC loves us. But it was an eye-opening thing for me. It got me thrown into politics. I did a lot of learning in a very short period of time, and learning a lot about the good and the bad, but now deciding for myself as a 36-year-old man, like, it's time to figure out why so much of my paycheck is missing and who's running, and start figuring it out. I want to start this off with you, Gary.
Sure.
Sure. Because you actually ran for city council and were a city councilman back in 97?
97 to 2001.
So I think for our audience and for everyone in the room, I think we could start with you. Can you describe what a city councilman does?
Well, a city councilman, you're one of seven, and basically they set the policies and deal with the major issues affecting the entire city. Every week there's something new, something interesting that you have to deal with, whether it's a land use decision or somebody's got some kind of problem with a street issue, or somebody wants to do a rezone, or there's somebody has a back fence problem, or it's a planning issue, or something from the planning commission comes to the city council. There's a myriad of problems. Public safety, making sure that you have the right staffing levels for your fire department, police department, code enforcement. So you're dealing with every issue affecting the entire city. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it challenging. But that's also what makes it very rewarding, because you see what you and your colleagues, as well as the mayor, do, and often you see some very positive things happen in the city.
All right. Now, would either Carter or Justin or Jeremy, have any? Sorry, I work with Justin Pearce. I knew right off the bat this was going to be a problem. Do you guys have anything to add as far as your view of what city council is?
Well, on top of that, it also includes lots of studying and making sure you know what you are making a decision on, and it's lots and lots of homework, essentially.
Graduate school to go to school, huh? Jeremy?
Yeah, excuse me. I think Gary laid it out pretty well. That's pretty much what it encompasses, and also you're a spokesman or woman for your district and their specific concerns also, because while your votes affect the entire city, you are elected by district, and that is their specific voice on the city council.
All right. Well, I'm hoping for those listening at home you can understand. I know I looked up on the Fresno.ca.gov page or whatever it was. City council's right below mayor. Is that true to the pecking order as far as control?
No, I don't think so at all. It's different. I liken it the same way as the president and the Congress. Now that we've gone to a strong mayor form of government, the mayor is somebody who oversees the entire city staff and the administration. That mayor can also initiate policies, but the city council determines policy as well. The city council determines the budget, and that has a direct impact on what happens from a policy standpoint. But one is not higher than the other. It's kind of a checks and balances, just like the Congress and the president. But I mean, clearly the president has a very significant role, so does the mayor. The mayor is truly the top spokesperson for the city, although as Jeremy was saying, each council member represents a large constituency, and so they also have a platform to talk about very important issues affecting the city.
All right. Well, let's get to the first. We're going to do this in debate form, so we'll start with one person and we'll go around the table, and if you want, you can get a chance to retort when it's all done. But obviously one of the main issues here in this district that people talk about a lot is crime, and I've listened to some of your shows about being on KMJ. I've heard actually, Jeremy, you were one big one that I listened to and took a whole lot of notes on. So I'm gunning for you here.
All right.
So I might as well set you up and say, go ahead and give me round one here. Your views on what you will do on crime in District 6.
Well, crime in District 6 is really out of control. I'm a stone's throw from your studio here, and every house in my cul-de-sac, either the house has been broken into, the car's been broken into. Lady lives across the street from me, retired teacher. They spray painted her car with graffiti. Vagrants roaming the streets at night. I've lived there for 15 years, and it's just the last couple of years that it's really, really gotten out of control. And the constituents, my neighbors, want an aggressive response to this growing threat. And I went and met with Chief Dyer, and he told me that we're understaffed, that we need 1,000 officers in the city of Fresno. I went on a ride-along. We started in the Northeast substation, but we weren't able to answer the calls here because we were racing to more serious calls elsewhere in the city, drive-bys and so forth. And so those increased officers will really help us be able to answer the calls, the property crimes that are going on here in Northeast Fresno. And so the chief said 1,000 is what we need. We made that the cornerstone of our campaign. And other folks in the campaign are looking to go back to where we were before the recession, but that's when we had a smaller populace. That's before Prop 47. That's before prison realignment. And so the chief has said that 1,000 is the number. And so I don't think it's our job to question that number. I think it's our job to give the chief the resources that he says he needs to keep the city safe.
Okay. Gary.
I actually have a...
Well, let's wait till let them do their...
Please.
Come on, know the rules.
I'm getting anxious over here.
Just talking about public safety, it is the number one issue. It typically is the number one issue because you're a big city and you have big city problems. We lost 150 officers from the peak of the recession when we had 850. We've now gotten 50 more back. We're looking to get at least another 100, get back to where we were, pre-recession. We're about 850. Jeremy talks about 1,000. The chief has said 1,000. At some point, we'll get to 1,000. I mean, obviously, it always comes down to numbers and what resources you have to get those police officers. I've talked about selling unused, vacant city-owned land, and there's a way to get really several $1 million, perhaps as much as $10 million from the sale of that land. I've talked about naming rights for the entire convention center facilities. It's estimated you can probably get $1 to $2 million on an annual basis for 15 years, just like Chukchansi Park. And that would be an ongoing revenue. I mean, it's clear that obviously if you sell a land, it's a one-time money. One of the mayoral candidates, Lee Brand, has said, well, put that into an annuity. I'm not sure that you truly have a rate of return that's going to generate what he says it might, but it might, and it's something we ought to take a look at. So there's a number of ways we can get creative. There's been talk, and I think Mr. Brand's highlighted, electronic billboards throughout the city. It's certainly something I would be interested in if it generates revenue. But we have to get the police officer number up. We have to get our fire department back up to where it was. We have to get our code enforcement department back up to where it was. Each of those departments have been hit pretty hard. Each of those departments, of course, play a very critical role in our city. So it is number one, public safety. It typically is, and it is this year as well.
All right. And Carter.
All right, so I actually have a little bit of a different approach than my fellow candidates. So I believe that more than focusing on more policemen and more of all that, we need to focus on the root of the problem, which is education itself. And if we fix education and get more jobs out there, we can pull people off the street, and instead of dancing around the problem and putting more people in prison, that just doesn't fix it, because there'll be a new wave of criminals coming in. So we need to actually solve it with education.
All right. Well, let me actually respond to you just now. Education, education is always one of those things that are talked about. Your timeline from when you get voted in to the end of your term. 4 years, am I right? Can you do enough education to get the turnaround, or I mean, is it starting the process, but at the same time, crime's not being addressed and leading to more and more issues? I mean, how far south can it go before the turnaround of the education? Which obviously we're talking one thing or the other, and that's the proper way to do it would be everything going at the same time. But that's a perfect world, and tell me where that is that we can go to. So, I mean, do you response?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the way it would work was we would want to focus on job centers and
rehabilitation. It's all right, live mics, they screw me up too. Rehabilitation.
Doing stuff.
And we need to focus on those things, because when we can get those things, we can actually get the people off the street. And if we're able to pull them off the street, usually we can keep them off the street. And with keeping them off the street, then that problem is solved. So I don't think it's going to take that long, and they're not going to, the border's not going to keep scooting over past certain. I think that's where it's going to end if we can start focusing on education and start pulling people off the street.
Okay. Kevin.
I was going to say earlier about the request for more officers. Now, I'm sure everyone's heard that we are like the first or second drunkest city in the nation, or we have the most DUIs charges put out there, which I would say is correlated to the amount of DUI checkpoints we have. Even though those DUI checkpoints tend to be, they collect a lot more tickets based on like non-violent charges or offenses, like driving on a suspended license or no insurance and stuff like that. Basically everything except for alcohol in the system. Is it possible to divert some of the resources there, which could be looked at as being more of a revenue generation for the city, and pull it more towards where the actual crime, the violent crimes, are being committed? Is that an option? Has that ever been put on the table?
Well, I think the police chief and his staff determine really where they want to commit their resources. If we are pulling people over at DUI checkpoints and they're drunk, I'm pretty much in favor of that. I don't want people who are drunk driving our streets, and that's violent crime as well. When you kill other people with a 3,500-pound car,
definitely. Yeah.
So if I would be in favor of not doing that. If we were having checkpoints and we weren't getting people who were drunk, I would say, geez, maybe we should be committing our resources elsewhere. If we're pulling people over and we have these checkpoints, I think it does still, unfortunately, make sense that we should have that in place. Because, listen, I don't want to get hit by a car driven by a drunk driver, and I don't want a little kid dying from it. I don't even want somebody who's driving drunk to get killed. I want people to be safe. But if somebody is driving drunk, I think it is a good use of the resources to get them off the street. I don't see it as it's a revenue generator. I wish it wasn't a revenue generator. I wish it wasn't that was the case. I mean, that's a very different thing than people checking to see if people are driving 5 miles over a 40-mile speed. That, I think, is something that I would say, do we need that? And maybe that would be better spent having somebody in a neighborhood driving around. But when you're pulling people over for DUI, and unfortunately you're getting a lot of people pulled over, I think it makes a good sense of those resources.
I would agree that anybody who's impaired while driving under alcohol should not be driving, and if that's the case, then they are clear and present danger, should be removed. But
that's a hard one to argue against there.
And that's why I'm not going to argue. I'm just saying the all the rest of them that come through. I mean, I've heard statistics, maybe not in Fresno, but anywhere along the lines of like 50 to 80% of them come down to driving without insurance, driving without a license, driving basically the code offenses that aren't violent, that tend to pull a lot of resources, and then also pull a lot of court time and officer time, and then all the other good,
the spiral,
wonderful little spiral that follows it.
Actually, I have a question for the 1,000 officers, and it kind of goes similar to where he was going.
We might have a responsible here from Carter.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I was thinking for that we should go with more of a creative idea. I saw on Facebook they were actually having communication between people in prison who went to prison for killing someone in a car wreck with bars, and they were talking to drunk people, and it actually really made a difference. What happened is they had a recording, and it was in the bathroom, and the mirror would actually light up with the prisoner, and he would actually talk to the
Drunk people pissing.
Drunk people pissing. And
God bless the free market.
So it's kind of like Spaceballs?
Yeah, it's genius.
Interesting approach. As far as the more officers, you're saying 1,000, Gary. You'd like to get at least back up to the 850 that we had years ago. I know a lot of people will have their negative view on that being, are we getting more revenue generators, or are these going to be actionable officers? And I say this coming through from, I've had 3 occasions. I've had my truck stolen right outside my house here before, 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. I've had an ex-wife's purse stolen where I found out who did it. We filed all of our forms, or we did all that stuff. We got pictures from the bank to show who withdrew money. I found out who it was. I kept calling for 4 weeks. No one responded. I finally called and said, hey, this person's name, this is their address. I'm going there at 5:30 to shoot them. You can meet me there or call me back. They called me back. Told me not to do that. But very frustrating that... I pay my taxes mostly and do everything mostly right. But when something happens to me, when I get victimized, I can't get any help or support. But if I don't have my seatbelt on for 10 seconds after dropping off something in the mailbox, I'm paying that fine, and there's no way out of it if I want to keep my record nice and all that. So are we going to be having officers that are going to be helping the citizens who actually need them, or is this going to be just more people out there on the street with tickets?
No, I hear you, and that's absolutely essential that we actually have officers in the neighborhoods and responding to crimes. A part of the problem also is the amount of support staff that was also cut during the recession, and so officers are spending more of their time writing reports and so forth and filling out paperwork that support staff was doing. And so, when I went on the ride along, there's just so much paperwork before you can get to that next call. And that's a big problem right there. So they need additional support staff. But the additional officers and getting from where we are today to getting to that 1,000 is absolutely going to help getting to the property crimes here in Northeast Fresno. And so that's where we're really looking forward to those additional officers and making sure they actually are patrolling the neighborhood. So many folks, as I go door to door, say, if we just saw a car every so often, come by, what a difference that would make. Because Gary says in the campaign, and I and everybody, because we all know that police presence deters crime. And so just to have those officers in the neighborhoods and going back to where there was an officer with a beat and you knew who that officer was and so forth, those type of things would make a huge difference.
All right. Any follow-up from anyone else?
I agree with what he's saying. I mean, police do deter crime, and we want to beef up our police department because you're talking about not getting response times. And I've heard that. I'm sure Jeremy's heard that, and others have heard that. That's unacceptable, and it really needs to be changed. That when people call into the police department and they have some serious things that happen, they get a better response time than they've had. And I see the problem is really staffing levels. If you don't have enough staff, that's part of the problem. If you beef up our department to 850, we go higher than that. I think it solves a lot of things, and that is a major issue when you call the police, that you can't get an adequate response unless there's some very serious crime taking place. Mm-hmm. That has to change.
And let me tell you, that's another thing, too. You were talking about, well, if I had my seatbelt off and so forth. When the citizens have the idea that the only time I get a response from the city is when they're pointing out something that they think I'm doing wrong. Because I've called the city over different things, illegal fireworks, break-ins, what have you. But when have I heard from the city? When they thought I was watering on the wrong day. and I wasn't. I had to add a little water to my pool so the pump wouldn't burn out, but I get that notice on my door.
And it's like the day you do it, too.
Yeah.
You guys just standing outside my house?
Or I get a picture sent to me, a picture of my garbage can through my fence, but they could still see it.
Yeah.
Okay, It was in my backyard, but they could still see it through the bars in my fence, and I got a picture saying we can still see it. Yeah. That right there is ridiculous, and when city government has nothing better to do than harass their citizens, but you get your house broken into but no response, we've got a real problem at City Hall.
All right.
This is going to be fun.
There is a question here from Steve from Roll One For Me.
A dear friend of mine has a very large security company here in Fresno, Turner Security, and they carry weapons. would any of you guys support possibly subcontracting for the neighborhood watch type situations to where Turner Security would alert the Fresno Police Department when there's major issues, but there's a presence there that isn't such a strain on the city budget as to the fact that I did some research over this weekend in the city of Fresno. I believe has 3,000 total employees or so, roughly. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many make over $125,000 a year with their pensions included?
How many?
Over 800. So when you have that top heavy of a system, it's hard for the little guy to get any police response because we have a bunch of people up in ivory towers. I would love to see us maybe take the private market and use it. John can provide you a guy for $25 an hour right now. There's no pension, there's no retirement. That's $25 an hour, and I'd love to see us go possibly in that direction. Would any of you support that? And my follow-up question is, who has the support of the Police Officers Association, if any of you do here in the room?
Well, I have the support of the Fresno Police Officers Association and the Fresno Firefighters Association. In terms of response to your question, a lot of questions are raised just with that. Are you talking about the city paying for that? I don't think the city would do that. It raises issues. I mean, there's always issues of liability, training. What exactly would their role be? Are they just eyes and report things? If somebody's carrying a gun, that raises a whole bunch of issues. So, I mean, I think it raises lots of issues as to whether or not that's truly viable. So, I mean, it's always something I think the city would be willing to look at to see how you can, have a better police presence. But police are very different than, a security guard. And we understand that. And so I don't think it's something that the city would do. I would be interested. I thought where you were going is that, neighborhood associations would hire people to kind of patrol. But again, when somebody has a gun, as opposed to somebody just being the eyes and ears of the police, raises a whole multitude of issues. So it would be something that would have to be seriously looked into. I mean, I'm always interested in looking at innovative ways that we can make our city safe, but you also have to deal with those very serious issues when somebody's carrying a weapon who's not a police officer.
I could see the Zimmerman thing blowing up, and liability. He said the word there, the magic word.
Well, but John covers his own liability insurance.
But still, couldn't it come back on the city of Fresno regardless?
Absolutely. The city's always the one with the deep pockets, and they're the ones that are always going to be sued. Trust me, we always had closed session meetings. There were always lawsuits, and
I know. I got sued by the city. I know how the lawsuits work.
Well, and the city gets sued too. So I mean, the city is always an easy target for everything.
Well, you guys are a lottery.
Yes, it's true.
There's free money over there.
Yeah, might as well go get it.
A lot of neighborhoods in North Fresno have private security that patrols in cars in addition to the police department. And but like Gary said, there's no replacing actual officers. And the thing is, most neighborhoods can't afford that. Most in North Fresno can't afford it, and the rest of the city certainly can't. And so we want to get the actual police department up to the 1,000 to where we don't have to supplement it.
Actually, there was a question brought up on the internet here from Alea. What other kinds of deterrent programs outside of police force can we use to deter crime? Are there volunteer patrols? Is there a system set up to maybe help organize, a retired officer or a chaplain who can come through and, neighborhoods aren't the way they were back in the day, but maybe for those who are concerned, you can always find somebody on the block who's really excited to try to help protect their street. And I mean, this street alone, I grew up right across the way here, and I know most of the neighbors, and I'm sure if someone wanted to get together, it'd be a real easy thing.
That's big, neighborhood involvement. In my cul-de-sac, gentleman in the corner, he's retired, and I mean, he just keeps his eye out for everything. And you feel good with that guy in the cul-de-sac. And if you know your neighbors, if you have somebody like that, it makes a huge, huge difference. And in fact, when I went around to my neighbors talking about crime and so forth, we realized we don't know each other as well as we should. I've lived here for 15 years, and I don't know some of these folks as well as I should. So we decided here at the end of the month, we're having a big potluck, and because we need to know each other better. Whether I win this campaign or I don't, I need to know my neighbors better than I do now.
Would you invite me to that, please?
Of course I'd invite you, Gary.
Potluck at Jeremy's. Let's move on.
They all have my signs already, though, Gary. Yeah.
I saw it. I followed the trail to your house.
Real quick.
So I was going to say the Nextdoor app is actually a great app for that, because a lot of the local community and stuff, they can actually talk to each other on it, and they can actually contact the police together, because the Nextdoor app allows the community as a whole to come together and watch their streets.
That's more dedicated to streets, not like Tower District, but you have smaller sections, right, where everybody knows everyone. It's a closed circuit type of thing, right?
The Nextdoor app, it has like little neighborhoods. I'm actually on it. It has little neighborhoods, and you get part of a neighborhood. I'm part of Maple Creek. The way it works is for your neighbors who are on, it'll have like a little green dot on them, and that means they have actually joined, and it allows you to see what's getting posted within your little area. And if something troublesome is coming up, like a sketchy car or a sketchy scene, that actually allows you to know about it and gives you a chance there.
All right. Now, we could probably do this for the next couple hours here on crime. Obviously, it's the big issue here. I do want to move on, though. We'll try to get as much as we can in tonight. Next biggest one that we hear about a lot, and again, growing up, as I just said, being in this neighborhood for a better part of 36 years, vagrants and the homeless. Now, obviously, there's a separation. This is a big thing Clint Olivier had to deal with when he wrote something about that, and people got all up in arms because you have to separate one from the other. Either way, we're seeing a lot of it going on here. You got little clusters, Joe, we see around the corners of the streets. Recycling day is a big one, and that one drives me nuts too, because that's once the can hits the blue can, that's the cities. And these guys are going through, dumping trash out, pulling out the cans, and of course, no one gets caught for that. They'll even, if there's, if I dump all my aluminum cans in, it's a lotto ticket for a homeless guy, and he may just take my blue can and run away with it, which now I have to pay. What are your guys' views, and I'll start with Jeremy this time, on the vagrants and how, like, your plan to deal with it if you get elected?
Sure. Well, the first thing that we have to do is to separate the groups. It's not just the homeless. There are folks who are suffering from addictions, have mental health issues, are temporarily down on their luck. And those are the folks we all want to help. And for those folks, we have wonderful services in Fresno. Whether it's Map Point at the Poverello House, where they'll match specific needs with services, or the Fresno Rescue Mission, where my grandparents preached for over 30 years. And they've told me we've never turned away someone that needed to sleep. And but for the rest, the criminal vagrants, the professional panhandlers, blight makers, I want to run them out of Fresno, much like Mayor Giuliani did in New York in the 90s. They had a much bigger problem than we have now, and they instituted a tough love approach that says when you come upon somebody laying in the street, you don't just walk past them. You engage them as if that was somebody that you knew and cared about. And why are you here? What do you need? And then you make sure that they find the resources that they need. But if they refuse help, then you let them know, well, then we're going to follow you and follow you and follow you until you either get help or you move on your way. Because you can't sleep here. You can't sleep in Woodward Park. You can't sleep in front of this business. We're not allowing that. And once they get the point, we're not allowing that in Fresno anymore. A lot of them are going to move along to more hospitable territory. Fresno might not be the place for you.
All right. Carter, what's your views on what you would do to deal with the vagrants in Fresno?
Well, I personally believe, again, and as I was saying earlier, is education is the solution for that, because education can pull them out of the life. Of course, we can send them away, but they'll just send them to another city, and it'll just give our problem to another city, which doesn't actually, again, is not a solution. Because if we're just pushing them around, they'll sooner or later get back to us. We need to actually, and as I was saying, we need to pull them out of that life of crime. And the way we do that is we get more jobs out there, we get them hired, and we get them, show them a different life, show them that this is a better way to live. And if we can show them that this is a better way to live, then they're going to live that way, you know?
Okay. And Gary?
Well, I share a lot of views that Jeremy has. I grew up in New York City. I remember when it was Times Square was such a horrendous place to be, where they had all the sex shops along Times Square. It was a filthy city. I remember I would drive, and they had these guys, I don't know what they call them, but you'd pull up to a red light, and they'd
squeegee men.
Yeah, spray your window, and you'd get very firm and tell them no. And really, Mayor Giuliani did clean that up. And, interestingly enough, I was in San Francisco this weekend with my son's graduation from law school there. And it was a horrendous picture. I mean, you see all of the people laying all over the street, needles on the street I saw. And this is the result of these kinds of policies that think that they're being humane. This is not being humane. We need to really be more engaged, more interactive, try to get these people involved in services, and there are plenty of services offered by the state, offered by the county. The city has gotten involved in a very positive way in trying to engage these people. And I think Jeremy's right. There's a difference between people who really need that kind of help versus people who are standing on street corners and get arrested with $1,900 in their pocket. We need to do a good job of educating people not to be giving these folks money because we're just reinforcing their behavior by giving them money. They're not going to go away. You're actually going to keep them there. So we can do a better job of education, but it really isn't okay to just allow people to live on the street. You see that all you have to do is go to San Francisco or any of these cities that allow that, and it's a horrendous thing. And yet, I'm sure the people who are in elected positions or even the people who live there think they're being humane. There's nothing humane about it.
Yes, and there are people filing lawsuits saying that they have a right to do that. That is so sad that you are fighting for someone's right to be in this state when we should be offering them true help. When people slept and defecated in the streets, that was the dark ages. And now you want to make that a protected lifestyle? How sad.
Mm-hmm. Actually, we got someone who responded on a Facebook post here. She brought up a city in Oregon got rid of many vagrants by fining citizens who gave them money on street corners. Would that work here?
They've found that it's unconstitutional, and that's part of free speech to be able to give them the money. And so there's been a lot of tools that have been removed like that. So like Gary said, it's more about educating people not to give them money. We basically need a public shaming if you do that, to where you're embarrassed if somebody saw you do that, because everyone would know you're engaged in toxic charity that is making that person's life, you're adding to their suffering through feeding their addiction, and you're out your $20. See, you're really not helping anybody. It's toxic charity, and we basically need to shame people who do that so that they get the point that you're harming this person by doing this.
Have you, in Austin, I was actually out in Texas a couple months back, and in Austin they have these signs all over the place that say 311 for services. So the big change in culture they tried to get over there was, instead of giving the person money, call 311 to get them services. Is that something you'd be interested in looking for? Some way to, I know that we've got, the Fresno Rescue Mission and Poverello House, which do a wonderful job. They're actually clients of mine. I do work for them all the time.
Yeah.
But another way for people who aren't necessarily familiar. I mean, I know you and I talk about it. Not everybody knows about the rescue mission. Not everybody knows where it's at. Not everybody knows where the Poverello House is at.
Yeah.
It's easy to Google search it, but it's an area that a lot of people aren't really familiar with, being in downtown Fresno. Yeah. Is there something you could do instead of just, saying, we need to change, culture, push towards maybe making something like that available, like even if it is a simple hotline manned by a person for a couple hours a day, or some at times when it's maybe not so readily available.
Well, if we had a number, most of them would be able to call it because they have free cell phones. Mm-hmm. And
Obama phones.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but no, we have new caseworkers that the city has funded that go out and engage. So it's not a law enforcement officer that they see first, but send these caseworkers out. And it is wherever you find folks, making sure that they get to MAP Point, because that's the hub. That's the one-stop shop for services right now, and making sure that they get to map point. And but yeah, we have to engage them, and that's where it starts, is finding out why are you here, because it's all different reasons.
Would you think Fresno City or City Council, city in general, would be willing to work sharing resources with places such as Poverello House and Fresno Rescue Mission?
They actually can't share resources with them.
Never mind.
Sorry.
Why not?
Because they can't be publicly funded. They have to be privately funded. Sorry. That's why you have me here.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily your legal counsel, but I just do remember everything.
Thanks for helping me out there, man. Well,
saving you time from them telling you no.
Let's unless anybody has anything else to add to that, I'd like to shift gears to the final topic of this break. And again, if you want to participate, for those who were asking the questions on the YouTube chat room page, we will get to that in the next segment. A lot of questions, Garry, that you have lining up for you. But we want to, if you want to participate again, you can call in 492-0450 or keep chatting away on that YouTube page. We will get your questions in.
Are those questions from Holly?
No, Holly's not here.
Okay.
Holly's not here.
No, that's Dave's not here. That's a band.
Well, she's got her own band going right now. Joaquin's the lead singer. Alex, do you have something to add here with the code enforcement?
Last but not least, yes, code enforcement, or as I just recently saw, community redevelopment is now the name of code enforcement, if I'm not correctly. I was reading something on that a little earlier. I know that there have been some changes with Mayor Swearingen in office over the last couple of years, where she's been really pushing for code enforcement to have teeth, and being able to enforce that. I guess I know some of you older gentlemen have your own property. Obviously, you're not there just yet, Carter. Don't worry. One day, hopefully for millennials. But right now, there is definitely an issue with over 1,000 blighted properties, vacant, boarded up, not livable properties in Fresno. I know not quite so many of them are in the northern portion of your district, but what would you be doing to work with the code enforcement, or what are your thoughts on code enforcement and how we can improve that process and make it more effective?
Well, I think the city has been moving in the right direction, and I'm sure it had to do with Somerset Village Apartments, where they went without hot water and heat, and you had basically an out-of-town slumlord, a man who has lots of resources, certainly wasn't investing it in his apartment complex, and people struggled for months living under those conditions. I think the city got very serious. They've enacted stronger ordinances. That's really, from my perspective, what you have to do. You need to have teeth in your laws, otherwise people ignore it, and people have ignored it because there hasn't been really any teeth in our laws. That seems to be changing. I certainly support strengthening our code enforcement teams, and our laws, our ordinances, to make sure that people who simply are not taking care of their property, who are letting it become just blight, that's not something the city should ever accept. Now, we want to be careful that we don't enact laws that affect people who are following the rules, because you always have to be careful for unintended consequences of laws that you create. You don't want to create laws simply because there's one bad apple, but unfortunately we have more than one bad apple in the city, and that is because we just haven't had the teeth, we haven't had the code enforcement officers, and I don't think there's been the priority that there was when Somerset Village took place.
Yeah, Somerset Apartments, that type of situation, unacceptable. No one should have to live without heat and hot water for weeks on end. And so we need teeth to take care of the bad apples. But I think most property owners are responsible and are offering good rentals at fair prices. So, you don't want to paint the whole industry with a broad brush, and then you have to look at the other part. The Fresno Bee did a big story, but what about it's everyone together? It's the city, it's the property owner, it's the tenants. There are slum tenants, and you have to focus on that too. It's not the city's problem or the property manager's problem that you have garbage strewn all over your apartment that's attracting vermin. And so everyone has to be responsible for their thing and for their part in this. And when it comes to houses, kind of like the homeless situation, there's all these different groups. Some of these, it's a 95-year-old lady that just can't get out and take care of her lawn anymore, and so we need to figure out a way to make sure that she's getting some help to keep her place up and so forth. And so it's like, why is this house in the shape that it's in?
The thing, though, Jerry mentioned about tenants. I mean, clearly tenants should be responsible for their apartments. I have 2 fourplexes. I make sure that, I let people rent from me that have good records and take care of their place. And those tenants who don't, I've asked to leave. And so, yes, tenants clearly have a role, but really it's the property owners that have the responsibility to make sure that your apartments are functioning, that everything works in there, and that people follow rules, and there's that people get along and take care of the place. It really is the primary responsibility of property owners, and that's who we need to hold accountable. If there's a tenant that isn't taking care of their property, then it's up to the owner or the landlord to deal with that tenant, get rid of that tenant, or work with that tenant so they follow rules and they do what they should be doing. But ultimately, it falls on the property owner.
I want to give Carter a chance here.
Slumlords are absolutely unacceptable. It's as simple as that. It's a basic human right to have basic human living conditions, especially in the United States of America, where we're one of the most wealthiest countries in the world. It's as simple as that. We should absolutely be enforcing it. And I actually did have a quick question for you. How old are you?
Me? I'm 31.
31? According to Pew Researches, you are actually considered a millennial.
Oh, no, I know. That's why I said it's the millennial dream.
Yeah,
I understood that.
Look at his hair and shoes.
I understood that. I don't own property yet. Don't kid yourself. I'm being real.
He doesn't have to. He's got a motorcycle.
I appreciate you bringing up the tenant because I do understand. The tenant-landlord relationship is huge, but it's something that's almost unfortunately there's so much law in California in regards to it on the state level that I understand that it's to an extent outside of the scope of what you're looking at as a city council member.
Yep.
All right, we have a question here from the audience. Steve, what's up?
Well, I had a question for Gary. You said you own 2 fourplexes.
Yes.
Are either one of them Section 8 housing?
Yes, we do have Section 8.
So you're okay with taking government subsidies?
Absolutely. Okay. Listen, I'm okay with tenants taking the Section 8. I mean, it's there up to them. So, no, I don't have any problem with that. That's the rules. And some people don't take Section 8 housing. I have found tenants, irrespective of whether they're Section 8 or not Section 8, people who care about their property care about their property. And those who don't care about their property don't care about their property. It's as simple as that.
Do you think there's less incentive for someone to care about the property if it's getting subsidized partially?
That's not been my experience. I mean, I have people who have Section 8.
You bet. I've found that a lot in anything. You give, if somebody doesn't pay for something or they don't pay as much for something, a lot of times it does affect. It absolutely affects. I went in to a public housing area in Memphis because Elvis had once lived there. And I wanted to see where his apartment was. And there was human waste in the hallway. Okay?
Yeah.
That is absolutely absurd. Mm-hmm. That people are behaving that way, and if you have to pay for something, if you have ownership of something, a lot of times you do feel differently about it. Same as if your dad gives you a car or you worked every summer and you saved up for that car. Now, that's not everybody, and I'm not saying people who are lower on the income ladder that everybody behaves that way, but it can have an effect if you're given a free phone. If you're given a free place, if you're given free.
Yeah.
It needs to be a lot more work in this country and a lot less free.
Oh, entitlement? You're saying that's bad?
Yeah, I just want to be clear, though. I completely agree. We want to get people to be responsible and to work, and I'm not for people just getting subsidies. I mean, we started that in the 60s, and we went down that slippery slope, and look where we are today. But I want to be very clear that the question was, do I get a sense that people who are on Section 8, who are government subsidized, are different in some way in terms of the way they take care of their apartments? And I say no. That's my experience. I have people who are not on Section 8 who don't take care of their place. I have people who are on Section 8 who take care of their place. So it's not been my experience that whether you're in government subsidy determines whether you're going to take care of a place or not. It's just not true in my experience.
Well,
People are people. Everyone's going to be different. There was a question here from the interwebs. Again, Leah, she wants to know what happens when people don't have the resources to fix the ordinances. It's not uncommon for elderly people to be unable to keep up and not have the money to fix their property. What programs do we have in place to help them keep these properties up?
Well, it depends on what she means by fix their properties. Because if you're an apartment complex, the landlord has a responsibility for the property to be fully functional and for the apartment to be fully functional. That means all the electrical outlets, the lights, the plumbing, all of that is supposed to be maintained in good working order by the landlord. Now, I mean, you don't want tenants throwing things and messing pipes up and things of that sort, but it's up to the landlord to make sure that everything is fully functional.
Well, I think this goes more like, because my mom lives across the street and she's still functioning and able, but I figure at some point down the road she's not going to be able to take care of the grass and stuff, and by then I should be moving far away. Is there someone that can help her take care of the little things? Like we talked about trash cans, or maybe the fence board comes down.
Her
or
son.
The grass. No, again, without the son having to do anything.
It takes a village.
Is there anything
To raise an idiot.
in place to help? Thanks, everyone. This has all been great. Write me in, by the way. Is there anything in place now or anything that you could see to be put in place for people who could use the help? Homeowners that can use the help that just can't do it themselves anymore.
Well, I tell you what I wish that we relied more on, and that's what we relied on in the past, where your family, your friends, your church helped you out. At our church, River Park Bible Church, we have a program where we send youth out to help our elderly church members paint and cut the grass and so forth. And if we just had more of a community spirit on these kind of problems, then we wouldn't be, well, where's our government program? And unfortunately, then you do have to end up with a government program if we're not helping one another.
So you're thinking more of the line that this should be something that community should take care of.
Well,
this is not a government thing.
I wish that it was more in the past, because that's how it was. In the day, if you didn't have something, then your neighbor helped you out. When they didn't have something, you helped them out, and so forth. And if we would return to that type of community spirit, we'd find a lot of these problems solved.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's absolutely right. This is not a government program. When your mom's fence isn't working and you're not willing to do it,
thanks, man.
She's got to get a neighbor, a friend, somebody to help her. And unfortunately, we've become a very mobile society. We're not, the family isn't there together like they used to be. I mean, that's not the case for everywhere, but it's changed, and people do need to be more involved in helping each other.
Okay. Anything else to add on any of this or any of the topics we talked about?
I'm just wondering what Holly thinks about it. Holly,
she's surprisingly quiet.
She's very quiet.
Yeah.
Very quiet today.
She's probably working up a new press release to explain some bad decisions. Tell you what, we're going to get into some listener questions for all of you guys, as well as we have a whole list of questions, a little bit more open forum, again, to get to know who you guys are, the candidates. We're going to take a break here, freshen up, get ourselves some sushi, and if anybody wants, Riley's Brewing, it's on the house. Go and grab it. Thanks, Riley's.
Carter.
And again, Holly, you can't touch it. And then, of course, the sushi provided tonight by Steve with Roll One for Me. We'll be right back. It's the Dirty Dowdy Podcast on Longbox.FM.
You're listening to the Dirty Dowdy Podcast on Longbox.FM. Make YouTube your tube by searching out Longbox.FM on YouTube.com. It's music, videos, and live webcasts. Watch it all at YouTube.com by searching out Longbox.FM.
All right, it's Dirty Dowdy Podcast back here on Longbox.FM, brought to you by Riley's Brewing.
Thanks, Riley's, and Roll One for Me.
And Roll One for Me. So we took a little bit of break. We started eating some sushi, and then it got a little testy as Gary and Jeremy were just throwing sushi rolls at each other. So something came up, and we're going to address that here shortly. not really, but we'll have some fun tonight. So we're going to be doing some questions from the audience. And again, if you want to participate, you can call in 492-0450, or you can join us in the YouTube chat room, or even hit up Twitter with hashtag 559vote. Multiple ways to get a hold of us, and Skype if you want to. Just search Longbox.FM on Skype. So let's start off with some questions that Kevin and I have been going back and forth on some stuff. I got some I want to throw at you guys first. And I did hear this fun one during the break. HSR, high-speed rail. Obviously, it's a hot-button topic in the Valley, Fresno especially. So it's kind of more of a hypothetical for you guys. But this will, obviously tell about where you guys sit on it. So let's just say high-speed rail can be shut down, and it comes down to a vote at City Council, and it's 3-3, and it's up to you. You're the deciding factor on whether or not to kill it where it is right now. Around the room. Still start with Carter here. What would your vote be, and why?
Well, if we kill it, they'll just find another city to pass it through,
I'm saying in Fresno, and in the hypothetical, we will end it with your vote, or continue with it.
The hypothetical.
Yeah, which would you go for?
For right now, I probably would pass it for the reason that it's going to bring a lot of jobs and a lot of money, because what the high-speed rail has done in other countries, and it could do in ours too, is it makes a very large economical spur. What happens is money is getting spread a lot faster, and it actually does a lot of good for the economy. It's a method to help the economy and take down unemployment rate and put a lot of money out there.
All right. Gary.
Yeah, the bottom line, as I've said throughout, I don't support high-speed rail. I would not support it. Now, having said that, the voters have already passed it, and I don't want to turn away any job that comes to Fresno. I don't think we're in a position to sit on some throne and act like we don't need jobs here. We need jobs here. So the voters have decided. If that hadn't been decided, my vote would have been no. I wouldn't support it. I think we should have been spending our money on water. And frankly, I think we should have been building some kind of a pipe up north to Oregon, the state of Oregon, and the state of Washington. We have tons of water, and paid for a pipe. We could have created thousands and all kinds of jobs just creating such a pipe, and we could have had the water that we need, because when we have drought, we are seriously adversely affected. And if we had focused on that, which is really what the state needs, the state doesn't need high-speed rail. We don't need a train. So I would have voted no when it was going on, and I wouldn't support it. But I'm not going to turn away any jobs coming to Fresno. I'm just simply not going to do that. We're not in a position to do that. And some people want to turn that around and say that I'm for high-speed rail. I am not for high-speed rail. I've never been for high-speed rail. And so that's really where I stand with it.
You understand you're at a spot where it doesn't matter anymore. You're stuck with it.
It's done. It is done. But I would vote no on high-speed rail when they were doing that. And that's the simple thing right now.
All right. And Jeremy, the high-speed rail hypothetical question gets more real. Now you're the deciding vote on this yes and no here. What would you vote?
Yeah, no. I never been a supporter of high-speed rail. Luxury we can't afford. I do wonder why all the folks that are for high-speed rail have rallied around Gary's campaign since he's against it, but all the high-speed rail folks are for Gary. So I don't quite understand why they're for him. But no, high-speed rail isn't even what the voters passed. It's changed and morphed so many times since then that it isn't even what the voters passed.
See, this is the kind of stuff that you have to deal with and challenge in political campaigns. I mean, he tosses something out there. I wonder why the people from high-speed rail support Gary. I don't know who he's talking about, although when we were in the room, he was talking about former Mayor Alan Autry, who has rescinded his support for Jeremy. When I met with Alan as to why he did that, he told me he just didn't see eye to eye with things. He didn't mention anything about high-speed rail to me. I don't support high-speed rail. Now, Mayor Swearingen supports my candidacy. I believe she supports my candidacy because she knows I'm a person of great integrity and great strength, as she is. We never sat down. I don't think I've ever talked to her about high-speed rail, ever. So I think she can probably talk to that as well. So this is the kind of stuff that is done in campaigns, these little whisper things. So you have to continue to say what you stand for. My whole life has been about integrity. If I supported high-speed rail, I'd be the first one to tell you I support it.
So at this point, you're saying no high-speed rail, and that's been your stance. And throwing the hypothetical out, obviously that's not going to happen.
Show some evidence that I supported it in the past. I'd love to see it. It doesn't exist. I don't support high-speed rail. Again, I'm not going to throw rocks at it, though. I'm elected to help people with jobs in this city, and I'm not going to turn away jobs that come to this city. It's a done deal. The voters decided on it. I think it was an unwise decision. I don't think it's going to work. But if jobs are coming here, I'm not going to throw rocks at it.
All right. Well, then when it comes to unwise decisions, this leads to the next one. Jeremy believes the Chukchansi Stadium. Unwise decision?
I love the stadium itself, by the way. And
if I missed this, I'm sorry. I was a bad lead-in then.
No. I love the stadium, and I mean, how fantastic is it that we have the national flag of AAA baseball flying over it? And but that's not the point. Whether it's a good stadium or whether we won the national title, those are great things. We're talking about the financial deal for the stadium, not the if we love the Grizzlies or if it's a beautiful stadium. The fact is that Garry Bredefeld put us all on the hook for $104 million worth of debt when the original plan was a private group was going to finance the stadium. We were just going to give them the land, and it changed as these things always do. Now all of a sudden the city's on the hook, and Gary's pounding the table, for this deal wherever he goes. And what the equivalent is everybody in this room and everybody in the city of Fresno, man, woman, and child, went into your wallet and took out $200. That's how much it cost each person to fund this terrible deal. And we could have, Mayor Patterson at that time, who served with Garry and who's endorsed me because of Gary's bad decisions at that time, said if things don't pan out exactly, true statement, that if they don't pan out exactly how Garry says, we're going to be laying off police, we're going to be laying off fire, we're going to be cutting essential services because of Gary's debt, and that's exactly what happened. It was a horrible deal then. It's a horrible deal now, even though it's a beautiful stadium.
Real quick, and for Carter, I know you were 4 when this happened. I don't know if you want to dive into this.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
Give me a second here. So I actually don't see the point in arguing whether or not it was a good deal because it's already happened, But what we need to do now is find solutions. I actually met with the manager of the group there, and
Chukchansi.
Of the club, and I was talking to them, and he was telling me the main problem they now are having is cells. As simple as that. And the reason they're having problems with cells is people are afraid to go downtown. If you grew up in Fresno, I'm sure you know the fear of downtown and the other side. You're scared to death that you're going to get attacked. And what we need to do is we need to have campaigns going that's saying, hey, our downtown isn't what it used to be. It's getting better. It's becoming beautiful. It's becoming a great place. And finding solutions instead of saying whether or not it's a great deal is really the argument there.
Well, I think that there is a change that's going on. It'll take a minute before North Fresno, because the city does have a division going on. It'll take a minute before North Fresno starts to feel comfortable going downtown. I mean, just traversing it, trying to figure out which streets are one way or not is confusing enough to people who don't go down there that often. But to Jeremy's point, is it possible the stadium actually helped lead, while it took a long time, help lead the way to the current work being done on the downtown revitalization?
Well, Garry will tell you that it did, of course, and he has his talking points that he'll share with you shortly. But if it did, it sure took a long time. I mean, what folks are talking about really spurring it is the talk of opening Fulton Street. And a lot of
opening the Fulton Mall has done all this development.
Well, that's what's the current excitement, where they're fighting over these spots.
Well, there may be excitement, but
yeah,
there's been a lot happening over the last 10 to 15 years. This just opened up.
Yeah.
I mean, to somehow link opening up the Fulton Mall.
Well, that's what a lot of them are saying that they're excited about.
Okay. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, there's no question about it. So let me just address for a second. Okay. What I love about people who denigrate the deal and this whole thing, they start off with, I love the stadium. Yes, it's a beautiful stadium. Well, yes, it is a beautiful stadium. It's the best stadium in all of AAA baseball. There's no question about that. We should be proud of that. We have the best naming rights in all of AAA baseball. Chukchansi Casino gave the Grizzlies $16 million over 15 years for that stadium. There's no naming rights that's better than that in this country. Since that stadium has been built, we've had 500,000 people that come generally on an annual basis down there. You know, we've talked a lot about in the city, there's nothing to do except go to movies. Well, now there was something to do. And you had 5 council members who picked up a deal that was dead over 10 years and got something done for this city, got something done for this community, got something done for the kids and the families. And we knew it was always much more than just about a baseball game. We knew it was a way to spark redevelopment, spark development, spark something happening in a city that really nothing was happening, because people will tell you nothing was happening. Now you have technology companies that have come downtown, Bitwise Industry, Jake Soberall. The CEO said at a debate, he's on tape saying, I would not have come and invested $7 million in the building I'm in right now if not for that stadium. Since the stadium has been built, you have 450 apartments and lofts that have been built in the Mural District, costing $90 million of private sector investment. The Security Bank building has an out-of-town Beverly Hills owner who bought that building, is refurbishing it and putting in lofts and offices. And you see that kind of development and redevelopment and refurbishing of old buildings taking place. That didn't just happen by chance. The stadium was the spark. And 15 years later, unfortunately, I'm hearing the same talking points that I heard from people who are the naysayers, who want to keep and hold Fresno back. That's what happens every time, and it's happened in the city of Fresno for years. And that's why we're always lagging other cities. When you think, and I ask people all the time, think about the cities you enjoy going to. What is it that they have? They have amenities. They have restaurants, shops. They have baseball stadiums. They have all kinds of things. Why can't Fresno have that? And we can, and we did, and we built the best stadium in all of AAA baseball. I'm extremely proud of it.
I don't want to hold Fresno back, but I want to hold crime in District 6 back. I want to hold the deterioration of our roads back. Stadiums are fantastic, but we have to focus on the essentials first. The essentials are what city government is supposed to be doing for us. You can have a beautiful car. This is the best car on the lot. But if you can't afford that car, if you can't make the payment on that car, it's not worth the doing.
Well, we can't afford it. We do afford it, and it's a ridiculous argument to say, well, we either build a stadium or we fix roads. You know what? We did it all. We fixed the roads. We turned the lights on. We built the stadium. We funded the police. We turned our city into an all-America city in 2000 when we were a crime-infested city. Oh, and by the way, we built a new exhibit hall, and we built a downtown stadium. We were able to do it. This is all political rhetoric to win a seat on the city council.
Folks, if you think we can do it all, if you think Fresno has the revenue to do it all,
we did it all,
vote
Jeremy.
for Garry Bredefeld.
We did it all, Jeremy. We have a stadium, we have police, we're fixing streets, and we've done it, and we're going to continue to do it. So what you're saying is, let's not have built the stadium, let's have left it completely dirt. And you can say the same thing about the new exhibit hall.
Let me jump in here, and I'm glad the gloves are now on the table. Would it be fair to say, Jeremy, 2-part question here for you, that the stadium, at the time you were against it, you thought it was a bad idea, but it may have helped the long term now 15 years later? That would be part one. But part two being that your fear is, if Gary's elected, Garry could get us into another expensive debt or help support that, and that's more the concern instead of the actual stadium and what was done in the past.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Because people say, well, why are you rehashing the stadium? I wouldn't rehash the stadium if Garry wasn't back, if Henry Perea wasn't running for mayor. But the big spenders are back. Hold on to your wallet. And, if you want all of your tax money in District 6 going to downtown, you have your candidate. I think he's running for councilman of downtown. And because he rarely talks about District 6, and a lot of his events and signs aren't even in the district. And
they aren't. Where are they?
Well, they're on Sean Blackstone.
One's on Sean Blackstone. Are you telling me they're not on District 6? Are you kidding me? 99% of them are in District. Why do you say things, Jeremy, that are totally false?
How is it totally false? I just told you the first one.
Sean Black. There's one sign on Sean Blackstone.
Yeah.
So they're not all in District 6? That's what you just said.
Yeah. No, I didn't say they're not all in District 6. I said that you have events, you have signs.
Oh, I'm not allowed to have events outside of District 6?
No, you are, absolutely. But your conversation, the vast majority of it is about downtown and the city as a whole.
No,
like you're running for mayor. You did that once, and 88% of Fresno said thanks, but no thanks to Mayor Bredefeld.
Okay, Jerry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, but anyway, Gary's coming back. They say, why are you rehashing ancient history? Because the architect of ancient history is sitting across the table from me. So we have to
way it
have
turned
to.
out, though, is it completely fair to hold it against him now? Because while maybe at the time may not have been financially the best thing, and that's the point you're trying to make, but now being what it is, and the spark of this constant long
word.
thing of downtown, the building, which, we still have a long way to go, but do you think it's fair to hold him responsible for that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he showed poor judgment then. He's doubled down on it now, and it wasn't just that. Of course, he wanted the lake, a downtown lake, another $25 million on top of the $104 million. And so I have a completely different mindset than Garry Bredefeld on spending government money. I agree with Garry, like he says, on a number of issues, but on this fundamental difference of what city government should be focused on first and foremost, and that is the essentials. District 6 has terrible roads. Take one drive up Millbrook. Okay, horrible. We have crime rampant. We have homelessness crisis. We have so many things we need to be focused on. And Garry Bredefeld actually said, we have a right to baseball.
We have a right to baseball?
What
does that mean?
You said, I felt the people of Fresno had a right to baseball. You said that a bit wise. We have a right to be safe.
Sure.
We have a right to drive on halfway decent, but a right
I
to
think you're taking
baseball?
my words out of context, Jeremy. When I say it, you have a right to baseball. What I'm saying is you have a right to have a quality of life, to have amenities in this community, and you do. You have a right to parks. You have a right to green space. You have a right to live safely. I mean, you're taking what I said out of context. And you and I
said
don't.
We had a right to baseball.
Whatever you say, I said.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what. If I said that, this is what I mean,
Yeah.
and you're taking it out of context. The reality is, you and I agree. Public safety is always number one. It always was when I was on the city council. I ran to deal with an out-of-control city. We hired 170 officers, and we took auto theft number one nationally, arson number two nationally, and we turned it into an all-America city.
Yeah.
That's making it a priority.
Yeah.
I made it a priority. I'm going to continue to make it a priority. My whole platform has been about public safety and how we're going to fund police officers. But I also don't believe that you have to ignore everything else just to talk about, fixing streets, and those are all important. Those are the primary issues. But you have to focus on other things too, Jeremy. You have to focus on other things in inner community in order to be thriving and to be healthy.
Important things.
I'm going to interrupt now. Okay.
This could be fantastically great, but I think we know you guys disagree on this, and I think you guys will still shake hands at the end of the night. So that
we
I do
always
like.
do.
We always do.
Gonna start with a roar. That was some cat fight there. And to add on to that, what I wanted to say is,
Be careful, you're entering that ring.
What I wanted to say is, when you say all American city, that's a little bit weird because all American cities are so diverse. America is supposed to be a diverse country, and we are diverse. Every city's a little different, and that's what's beautiful about our country.
Well, they're talking about, and this actually is a question from Michael Herbert. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. Garry, he was impressed with your record on the council. Fresno became an all-American city during your term. What are your plans for Fresno if you get elected again?
Well, it's what I've outlined and have on my in my website and brochures. Look, I'm a guy who gets things done. I listen to people. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a veteran. I've devoted my whole life to helping and serving other people. That's what you do as a councilman. You serve other people. When I was on the council, we held district meetings every month, and we did it throughout the entire district. That's because I was listening to people and addressing their concerns. What am I going to do when I'm elected? I'm going to make sure that our police department is where it needs to be. Our fire department is beefed up again. Our code enforcement is enhanced. We deal with slumlords. We make our city safe. We clean up the city. We deal with the homeless problem. We fix the streets and roads that clearly needed in District 6. But as a councilman, you also ought to be looking at the entire city. That's what effective councilmen do who are looking out for the entire city, because we don't have a wall around District 6. What happens in District 2 or District 1 affects what happens in District 6. And I care about the people in District 1 just as I do about District 6 because I care about this city. And that's what building stadiums, and that's what new exhibit halls are about, and that's what building parks and Northeast Police substations and Selma Lane Park. That's what I'm saying. You can do all of those things, and you ought to do all of those things.
Okay. Sorry, I got so many the internet asking me questions here. let me ask a question here. I wrote this down, and I don't know if this is a hot button issue right now. And if you guys don't care enough to answer this one, or it just doesn't matter to you, it's okay. Your stance on trans neutral bathrooms, because that's coming now.
Maybe it's coming.
Maybe. So, would you put up a fight against?
Of course, absolutely. We are a society that has gone mad. Unfortunately, people know more about the Kardashians than they know about who their elected leaders are, or who the president of the United States, or who the vice president. Our society has completely gone mad. Instead of focusing on terrorists and people who want to kill us, we're talking about this nonsense. And as far as I'm concerned, this is also an assault on our children, which I felt when my kids were little. I felt these messages were going on in Disney, on TV, when they were little 20 years ago. And, the slippery slope continues. This PC stuff, making people, frankly, like Bruce Jenner, heroes, instead of the people who are really troubled and struggling with a lot of issues and needing help. We make them heroes. We are a society that's gone mad, and I will absolutely fight against that and every other kind of crazy thing that goes on in our society.
Okay. Jeremy and Carter, who wants to follow that?
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying in this conversation here, I'm gonna.
No comment from Carter.
No comment here.
Fair answer, Jeremy.
Yeah, excuse me. Agreed with Gary. It's ridiculous. These are the kind of fights that you get into when you're a wealthy country. When you're living in a third world country and you don't even know where your next meal's coming from, or if the water that you're drinking is going to kill you. You don't have the luxury of having these little bathroom wars, this insanity. That's where we're at in the United States today. And I read something about we're not going to have he and she anymore. Now there's
Z and G.
I don't even know what's going on. It's complete foolishness, and sane people need to take a stand against it.
Well, I do like that everybody says we just need to make individual bathrooms. I don't think anybody gets the idea of how much money will have to go into renovating these schools and places where maybe there's not enough room to put in 14 individual bathrooms.
Just think about the message, though, that you're giving to these young children. What kind of confusing message this all is. I mean, we are a society that has gone mad. With this is absolutely ridiculous. Boys should be boys, girls should be girls. There's nothing wrong with boys being boys and girls being girls and going to separate bathrooms. It is the crazy left-wing loonies who have taken control, the PC police throughout this entire country and certainly in this state. And would we fight against it? We ought to fight against this. Whether you're a councilman or not, you ought to be fighting against it, because this is a war for the soul of our children.
All right. I'm going to step off of the questions here personally, and now I apologize in advance. My co-host here, Kevin.
Oh, no, these were well thought out. This is going to be some fun. I want to start with a little pop quiz, a little political constitution pop quiz. And I'm hoping that from what I hear from you guys, you're smart enough to understand all this, but this all got pulled off of the 8th grade constitution test that we all...
questions.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. I mean, it should be easy enough, but let's...
But why ask them then?
Yeah.
I'm not big on this
stuff either.
I don't want to even play.
Yeah.
No?
Nope. Not
No.
interested in playing. Nope.
Yeah.
Carter?
You're just killing his
You wanna step to the
libertarian
plate?
dream here.
Take a little pop quiz. It's all you. This time to shine.
If no one else is doing it, I don't see the point, to be honest. I'm sorry, man. I really am. I really, really am.
And in the first time in the history of this show, he's been shut down.
I'll be polite.
I have a question here, coming from the internet.
Oh, no, that wasn't my only thing.
Oh.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Internet. Go ahead.
Okay.
By all means.
Internet wants to know. Question for all the candidates. If California legalizes marijuana for recreational use this year, what would you do? Open-ended question, kind of. Supporting it, I'm going to assume he's going for support here or not. Are you backing it if it gets legalized?
No.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not.
All right. Well,
And
anyways,
it's not even the
yes.
marijuana that was from the 60s, which I wouldn't be for that either, but it's a whole different thing. And absolutely not. And the road we're going down of legalizing drugs and looking at it a different way is absolutely tragic.
So, as I just said a second ago, I support the legalization. I don't do drugs personally, but I support it because it's a lot safer than a lot of the drugs we have, We have tobacco, for freaking sakes, that has killed people years over years over years. It's still legal. And then marijuana here is nowhere near as dangerous or deadly. On top of that, you guys want to buy all these things, get these police numbers high. Well, marijuana can help do that because we can tax it. And I know that's very disagreeable on, but we can make a lot of money to afford a lot of the things that you guys want to do with that.
All right. Any?
Where's Gary stand on the marijuana question?
Completely against it.
Yeah.
I heard him.
Yeah, we got 2 no's and a yes here.
As a clinical psychologist and somebody who's worked in drug programs, marijuana is a gateway drug. I don't care what anybody says; it is a gateway drug. And I've just never been in favor of any kind of illegal drugs. I think they're problematic.
All right.
Carter,
I wanted to say something. So is tobacco. So is chew. That's all gateway drugs. They're all bad for you. They all give you ideas in your head. But marijuana is not anywhere near as bad as it. And if we keep viewing it as bad, it's the actual thought that this is a bad thing that's actually drawing them to these other things. It's not that it's a gateway drug itself. It's not like marijuana makes you want to do more drugs. It's that, oh, this is bad and this feels good, then let's go do more bad.
I think Gary's going to have a talk with you afterwards here.
We're going to talk, Carter.
He's going to charge you to talk to you, though.
Let me get 2 final ones in here, and then we'll go to break. And then
No.
You got one?
I got tons.
Okay. Let's
I
go round 2.
Here.
Let's go round 2 with Kevin.
These are actually questions that I won't let you guys back out of, because if you're in a public, if you're taking public funds to sit in a position, you should definitely know the answers to these. So, let's start with Jeremy. Actually, this will be for all 3 of you. Jeremy, answer first. Jeremy, did you swear an oath to the Constitution, or are you prepared to?
You don't to run. I don't believe. We did an oath. Was it to the Constitution down?
Yeah, I don't
downtown?
remember down there, but when you get sworn in, you do.
Yeah, I'd swear an oath to the Constitution, to the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carter?
Yeah, you swear an oath after you get elected.
Yeah, I believe so.
Cool.
I believe so.
If you hold any kind of public position, you do.
Yeah.
All right, so this one now, we'll go back to Jeremy here. What is the Constitution?
We're doing the 8th grade stuff again.
Getting close.
Well, I think where he's going is, to you, what does it mean? General-esque version of, and this is coming, I know that Kevin, he doesn't like being pinned at it, but libertarian type thing. And he has his views of what the Constitution means, which is kind of the foundation of what this country was built upon. So he's asked this question in the past, and I think it's kind of going more down the road of your view of the Constitution, and in his mind, that will kind of start telling him who you are as a politician. I don't know if I'm saying this right, Kevin.
It's pretty close. Anybody who's running for office should be able to answer these questions.
Okay.
Certainly.
Yeah, I'm a literalist with the Constitution. I don't believe it's a breathing document. I'm literal with the Constitution and with the Bible.
Okay. Carter?
That was weird how he added the Bible in there, but
to let people know what kind of
I do
worldview I
believe
have.
it's a living thing. I believe that it's supposed to be changed, and that's why we created amendments to change the Constitution. I believe that over time it will continually change, and I believe that it'll keep changing, or we'll get sick of it and make a new Constitution.
Ooh.
But what is... Oh, okay, so you believe it is a living document.
I believe it's a living document.
And Gary?
Yeah, and I agree more with Jeremy. It really outlines principles of our country and what we stand for. And I obviously believe in the Constitution, and so I think that gets it.
Yeah, that's the closest. I just have kind of my little one-sentence answer to myself. The law of the land was basically, I mean, the kind of nit and gritty of it. The second, and we'll go back to Gary and around, what is it, or what was it you were promising to me as a citizen by swearing an oath?
What am I promising to you? I'm promising to uphold the laws of this land, and to be faithful to them, and to be truthful to them, and I'm making that pledge, and that's what every elected official does. They don't necessarily live by it, but they swear to it when they start out. And I think when I certainly served on the city council, I swore to the Constitution, and I think I upheld my pledge.
Excellent. Carter.
All right, can you repeat the question real quick again?
What is it that you are promising me as a citizen by swearing an oath to the Constitution?
Well, I'm promising to you that I'm going to do my best for what you want to do. I want to do my best and help out and pass things that I believe you elected me to get passed. Simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah, that I'm going to adhere to its principles. And, And, the thing about the Constitution is so many people trying to read so many things that aren't there. And, and that's where you get into trouble with we could list them all day.
Yeah.
But, stick to the Constitution, stick to what's actually there, and don't try to shoehorn a bunch of foolishness into it.
Yeah. You guys pretty much covered it. I wrote here, to uphold the Constitution as a law in the land. Garry nailed that one. To defend the Constitution from usurpation and to defend my rights. It's basically what the entire oath is about. Let's keep going. I'm having a blast, and I'm staying tame, too.
You are a lot of fun at a party, by the way.
Oh,
this
goodness.
happens all the time
Am
after
I
the
ever.
show.
Carter.
Give me one more here.
Shit. Carter. What is the role of the federal government?
Define the question a little more in detail, please. Just like, what is the role in general, or
What is the what's the purpose of the federal government? What is it delegated to do?
well, that's quite debatable. But I don't believe that really has much to do with the city council position. So if it's okay, can I avoid this question?
Yeah.
All right.
Fair.
Yeah, I'll give that to you. Carter, I wanted to ask you this one then. Okay.
Oh, ask away.
What are rights?
What are rights?
Oh, no. Here we go. This one got Clint in trouble.
Is your seat getting hot?
Their baseball. That is our first and most important right.
You passed on the last one. Who wants to take a stab at this one? Someone break this down. What are rights? Remember, you're all running for office here.
Things that you're entitled to, essentially.
I think they're scared that we're going to ruin their career right now.
Well, you do have that history.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Dirty Dowdy podcast.
These are hard questions, apparently. Goodness. All right.
Let me start with the federal government. The federal government's role, obviously, is to defend the homeland. That's the primary responsibility of federal government, is to ensure the safety and the viability of our country. And we've gotten far, far away from that, obviously, because we don't just do defense. We've gotten into people's lives, into their homes, into their schools, into all kinds of things that we have no business being involved in.
Their bathrooms.
And now their bathrooms, that's right. And so but the primary role, as outlined by our founders, who are very, very smart people, was to protect the homeland. And that's really the primary role of the federal government.
That and in general, doing that which we cannot do for ourselves. Government in general. I can't build a road. I can't defend the country, so forth. But other things, amenities and so forth, it's nice if private enterprise does those and government does those things that we can't do for ourselves.
Certainly.
All right. I might as well answer since everyone else did.
Bring it.
I know I avoided it earlier. I was just thinking it was just for me. So I would answer with the way the government works is it's a social contract. It's not physical, but it's a contract. The way each government works is by living in there, by being a citizen of that country, you are part of that contract. You have to do things for the government, and they have to do things for you. And the people of the city, and they really vote on that kind of things to decide what we want, what we don't want. And that's what it is. It's a contract.
I respect you stepping to the plate, man. I want to tear into you so bad right now, but Dowdy would rip me in half.
Well done.
Don't do that.
Let's do one more.
If the government gets involved in something that should generate revenue, if the government has to do it, it's a bad idea, because if there's money to be made, private enterprise will come in and make that money.
You're autobound to fist bump it.
Yeah. They'll come in and do that.
All right, last one. This is for all three of you. What are taxes?
Oh, God. I apologize in advance.
Thank you for the apology.
Who wants this one?
What is our taxes?
What are taxes?
Well,
and there's a cynical answer that I'm
high.
not going to go out there.
The answer is high.
Yeah, well, they clearly are high. Well, taxes are. The theory behind them is to the citizenry pays taxes to provide services. The problem is, as is typical with government, that we've gone far from away from what are the basic premises of taxes, which is to have a tax to provide service, such as Navy, Army, Marines. Somehow that has to be funded, and so there are taxes. But while those taxes would certainly seem appropriate, we have more taxes that are clearly not appropriate. And we are a heavily taxed, over-regulated state, country, municipality. We pay taxes far beyond what was envisioned by the founders. And people don't even know that anymore, because the government steals the taxes out of the paycheck before you ever see it. So people are completely desensitized to understanding how much they pay in taxes, because they don't see the money. It's gone. Unless you're really, a fiscal steward and know exactly what you're making and, how much you pay in taxes, people really, they don't really know.
Yeah.
And so taxes are a way that government has really gotten control of people, because we are all slaves to government, because we are overtaxed by government. And people in the private sector have a silent partner, that is the government. They never take any risk. The government has no risk, but they share in all the upside.
Yeah.
And so taxes have become very burdensome. In principle, in theory, you're supposed to get something, so you get a service. The problem is we pay taxes, we don't get that service.
That actually nailed both my points. Involuntary and state funding. Beautiful.
What I was going to actually say is, I don't know when the last time you got a paycheck, no offenses, but when you get your paycheck, it tells you how much taxes are getting pulled out and how much you're paying, and it actually tells you everything. I have had employees, of course, complain, and then I've had them like, oh, yay, I got less taxes than last time, and it actually tells you what.
It may tell you on a pay stub, Carter, but people become desensitized to how much really is being, frankly, stolen from them, because you become desensitized to it. You don't realize that when you've made $200 and the government's taken $50, that $50 is a lot of money out of $200.
Oh, God, I would want that. I've done overtime a lot in my job, and so my normal 40 is great, but then I've learned that once I hit hour 12 of overtime, hour 13 is the bad one, where I actually make less money than hour 12. I've been taxed as a single man with a child, but I don't get to claim my child. I end up paying 46 to sometimes 52% of my check. The more you work, the more you're penalized, because I'm in a quote-unquote higher tax bracket, and I keep hearing, you'll get it back in taxes. I don't. Ever. So it's
Obama phones.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of folks aren't working, because government benefits sometimes are better way to go financially than working. That's how out of whack the system is today, that there's help wanted signs. You can't even get someone to work there because they're doing better on the government dole.
I've had people apply for apartments that were on 5 different government programs. One person collecting 5 different paychecks from the government. It's out of control. The whole system's out of control. It's obviously abused.
There are YouTube videos that will show you exactly how to go about it,
actually,
to where
you'll
never
those?
have to work,
Yeah.
and no one will ever have to work.
I'm doing something wrong here.
I'm kind of tired of waking up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, work? That's stupid. We do have I didn't know how to handle this. A question or a statement on the YouTube here. This is a conservative group overall. I'm a very liberal girl. I would like to know how they can represent us instead of their own ideals. And before you guys answer, I don't know if that's even possible. It's if the candidates don't fit your views, they're not your candidates. I think, would that be a safe enough answer, or do you guys...
No, I don't think that's accurate. I think as somebody who's an elected representative, you need to give voice to everybody, whether you agree with them or not. I just think that's very, very critical. Whether you end up supporting their issue or not is another story. But, everyone should have a voice. Everyone should be listened to. Everyone should be heard. And then when it comes down to it, you're elected to make the call. And we have our own beliefs, our own set of principles. I mean, that's what we're outlining for people as we're running for office. And then, we make our decisions within our own set of beliefs. But everyone, whether they're liberal, conservative, moderate, libertarian, whatever, should have a voice and should be able to express themselves and hopefully win the argument.
Well, thanks for making me the bad guy, Gary.
All right. Can I interview?
Carter, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm sure everyone has Google, but actually look up what a conservative and a liberal define as. The definitions of a conservative is someone who wants to stay with traditional values and doesn't want change. The definition of a liberal is one who wants to usually go away from it. Usually stay with conservative values. It's usually just keeping things the same. And liberal is actually defined as wanting things to change. So if you want a change, then you are a liberal. If you want things to be different and away from traditional values, you're by definition a liberal.
So Trump is a liberal and Hillary is a conservative?
In different areas, sure.
Label, I don't like labels as it is. I mean, you can be labeled as you are Republican. That doesn't mean I don't want somebody who just goes party line. So, Gary, your answer was correct, and I'm sorry I'm such a jerk here.
I think that you do listen to everybody, and I think at the end of the day that the constituents of whether it's a city, a district, what have you, will go with someone who shares most closely their values as far as the majority of thought in the district. District 6 is a very conservative district. Every precinct is red, and I think it's a very clear choice in this election. If somebody wants the free market conservative candidate, they'll vote for Jeremy Pearce. If they want the liberal big spender backed by the unions, they'll vote for Garry Bredefeld.
I'm always trying to be very nice to Jeremy, but he continues to spark this. I am supported by the police and fire labor unions, the very labor unions he tried to get endorsed
and
by.
Many other unions, Gary.
And there are other unions. Well, this goes to the question that the woman just asked, which I wasn't going to hit Jeremy on, but I'm going to now that he addressed it. I met with the building trades labor unions. They wanted to meet with all of us. They gave us all invitations. Jeremy and Holly Carter said, I'm not going to meet with those people. Why? Because it doesn't play into my political agenda, which is to act like he's a conservative, more conservative than I am or whatever. I'm going to give voice to everybody, whether labor, business, whatever they are. And then I'm going to make my decision. And I voted against labor and I voted against business. But I'm going to listen to everybody. And what Jeremy did and what Holly did is outrageous. They basically said, I'm not going to talk to these people because they don't fit my political agenda.
Well, we know that Holly doesn't show up for anything.
Yeah, I have to respond to that, and that is that was an endorsement board for the labor union. I knew I wasn't going to get that, but I would talk to anybody. We went in front of a conservative Lincoln Club endorsement board, and Gary didn't show up.
Well,
he had his excuses, but he didn't show up.
They called me Monday to show, or Tuesday to show up for Thursday. Well, you know what? I'm a doctor. I have patients. I can't. And I said, can you make it the afternoon? Can you do anything? I wanted to come before the Lincoln Club because you know what? I want to come before every group. But I have a feeling they weren't interested in really talking to me because it was really set up for Jeremy.
I'm gonna call a halt on that one. And by the way, I'm gonna give all of you guys credit because you guys showed up here, and no one needs to show up in this place. So you guys are all awesome in my book. All those who were here. I have two questions. I want to wrap this up, and I want to give you guys a final closing statement. First question. This should be fun. Let's say you are elected and you get sick for a long period of time. Let's say like you had valley fever for 6 months. Who in this room, or even possibly not in this room, would you choose to sit in your seat for that period of time to act for you? And this is someone either you like or you feel their ideals are close enough.
Well, if somebody that's not already on the council and elected position, I would pick my wife. Because she's got 2 degrees, including one in political science. She worked for Congressman Radonovich. She might be even more to the right than I am. And so I think she would be an excellent choice.
I see what you did there. You circumvented, but she is in the room. So,
yeah.
Well played, well played.
There's nobody that I could think offhand. My interest really would be somebody. I wouldn't be looking for somebody who's far right or middle right. I'd be looking for somebody who's principled, somebody who has integrity, somebody who's going to listen to both sides and try to make the best decision. That's the way I do things, and I think that's what's most important. Let me tell you, when you're on the city council, if you're not principled primarily, if you're don't have integrity primarily, if you just act like you're the ultra-conservative or you're the liberal or you're this or that, you're not going to be effective. What's most effective for the people is somebody who's principled and is going to listen to everybody and then try to make the very best decision that they can.
All right. And Carter.
Repeat the question real quick.
Basically, if you could pick someone, and I stated in this room, but I understand this is going to be a hard question. No one actually wants to endorse someone else here.
I'll endorse someone real quick. I'm going to endorse my dad, Carter Pope. His named after him.
The first CP1.
CP1. My child will be C3PO. So.
Well, there you go with the Star Wars vote.
Thank you very much.
Hey, don't steal my line.
Well played.
All right. Anyways, I would do my dad because he's a very intelligent man. He does listen to both sides, and I love my dad, so...
All right. Last question, and I'll let you guys do your final statement. What does a successful term mean to you? Gary, you have the experience. Why don't you go?
Well, I think a successful term is that you can point to when you started year one, and 4 years later, you see some very positive changes that have taken place in your community. One, it's safer. You've built up a police department and a fire department and a code enforcement division. Perhaps you have more parks. They're safer, they're cleaner, they're greener, and perhaps you have other things, other amenities that have taken place in your community, and you've enhanced the quality of life throughout the community. That, to me, would be success.
Okay. Carter.
All right. To me, success isn't measured by how far you go. It's measured if you're trying to go, and if you go at least a little bit. No matter what, I believe you are successful. You're doing a great job because you are at least trying to make a difference. And when you're trying, that's what matters. When people are actually doing their best to do their best, that's important, and that's what's beautiful. So success is not measured by how far you can go. It's measured by how hard you try.
Okay.
So even a little scratch at the surface, I think that's success.
All right. And Jeremy?
That I worked as hard as I promised. That I tackled the issues that were on the mailers that I sent you. I'm going to be one of 7, and so it will take others, and I'm already building those relationships, and have the endorsement of a number of folks already on the city council because they know I'm ready to lead and keep to my word. But another thing besides tackling that agenda is that I leave you not loaded with debt. That's a big thing too.
Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and skip that break. We're going to finish this all off. I know we're running late, and this could go, every time we do this, we could probably go for 14 days.
Yeah.
Now, there's so much, and it's an important thing, and it's unfortunate that too many people don't think of it as important. You have so many people who don't vote. I know I've been guilty of that in the past. I have my ballot here, so I gotta get my prep on, which means jury duty, but you all get hit. We'll start with Carter. Give me your final closing statement. The reason why people should vote for you.
Although we should have saved best for last, but I guess I can go first.
He's getting into it now.
Thank you very much.
I'll be here all week.
I'll be here all week. You should vote for me because I will fight for you. I will listen to you. I am a very, very open person, and I love meeting new people. I will absolutely listen to everything you have to say, and whether or not I will also listen to what someone else has to say if they disagree with you. The important thing is you got to actually listen to everyone, and you got to make the best decision. Now, there's absolutely an issue of you have to pick a side in the end, so there's a side that you're going to have to pick, but what's important is having the council member actually listen to you. And I am more than willing to listen. I have responded to every single email that's been sent to me myself. I don't let anybody else do it because that's something that you need to do yourself, because you're representing you. You can't have someone else sending out your emails. So I will do my best. I will work my hardest. And I have a great smile.
All right.
That counts.
Who wants to go next?
Sorry, guys. That was a good one.
Jeremy or Gary?
I'm going to go next because I think Gary, the elder statesman, has earned to go last. Not old, But he's the elder statesman. He's
The
been there
subtle
before. I'm going to
jabs,
show
I
him the
like it.
respect.
I notice he's done that through the night. That little.
I'm passive.
No. I think Fresno is at a crossroads. This election's going to determine whether we stay the course of fiscal sanity that we've been on recently, or we turn the keys back over to the big spenders. I'm going to be a council member that focuses on those essentials that people expect. Street and sidewalk maintenance, water security, public safety, with the cornerstone reaching that 1,000 officers that Chief Dyer says is absolutely essential. I will look you in the eye. I will tell you the truth. Assemblyman Patterson and Lee Brand said they endorsed me because I'm a man of my word, and I am. I have conservative values that I govern my life with, that I govern my business with, and that I'll govern the city of Fresno with.
All right. And Gary.
Yeah, and I'm running on my record, and I'm very proud of the record that I had when I was on the council. I was a very strong voice on the city council. I represented the people in District 6 and made sure that their concerns were addressed, whether it was development issues or neighborhood parks or bike lanes or trails. Whatever it was, they had a voice in Garry Bredefeld. I fought hard for them, and I fought hard for the city. And I did so with integrity and tremendous principle. And, Jeremy, alludes to, big spenders. I allude to Jeremy as the great naysayer, the people who want to hold the city back. We can't allow that to happen anymore. That's what keeps the city back. And so his big issue with me is around the stadium, and that's fine. I think we agree on the majority of making the city safe and it being about public safety and police and fire and code enforcement. Those are things we agree upon. I see myself as conservative as anybody running in this race, but I also believe in having the kinds of amenities that we need in the city. And that's why I'm supported by Mayor Ashley Swearingen, who kept us out of going bankrupt. She knows what's involved in it, and she also knows the stadium was never an issue. She's told people to stop using it as a political weapon because the stadium is 0.5% of what the general fund is. But we've needed that stadium, and I think I've demonstrated how important the stadium has been to the city. So my interest in running again is to come back and fight hard for the people in District 6, just as I did before, and improve the city. And that's why I'm looking for the support from them again.
All right, thank you. And our last candidate, Holly, final closing statements. Yeah, that's about right. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of all of this. The interwebs, who I didn't answer the questions to, I'm sorry, there's so much, and I'm not a Ray Appleton who can handle this all. But it's a lot to handle, and I hope you guys got something out of this like I feel I have. I think everyone here in the room is. Gary and Jeremy, as much as you guys were going toe-to-toe, we also saw during the break as you were sharing sushi with each other. It was very cute, and I hope we got a picture of it.
Gary and I have an interesting friendship.
But, it's okay to disagree on things. It's the greater purpose is helping.
I respect everybody who runs. Carter, Holly, Jeremy. I've gotten to know Carter a bit, Jeremy and his wife. They're fine people, terrific people. And so it never is, for me, personal. I mean, we have different points of view on some things, and we agree on a lot of things. But I know they want the same thing that I do. They want to improve their community. And so I commend them for the effort. This is not an easy thing to do, as they well know. I've done it before, so I kind of knew what to expect. But I'm sure they've learned this is a very, very tough thing to do.
Well, we did... I didn't hit on too much. Carter,
can I get
one thing I really like about you and part of you being here? I know you didn't get much of a chance with a lot of the media outlets out there. You're as new to politics, I think, as we are to politics, and that's not a knock. Because it's good that youth is interested in going. People talk, when you talk about the candidates around the room, you could talk about same old politicians. Gary, I guess you get to fall into that category. We need something new. Well, that could be Carter. That could be Jeremy. It's first time for both of you guys, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we can use someone savvy, like the person who doesn't show up for a debate. There's options out there. You just need to listen to what's going on. Carter, because you're the young one, I want to give you one last thing to say here.
Woo, all right. So I want to start with it's being a new candidate and stuff, and being new to the political field is a good thing because it actually gives you the ability to go in a different route than what has been gone before. And on top of that, I wanted to, although we're completely different people and probably disagree on a lot of things, but I am prettier, I want to give everyone a hand of applause for the great debate here, if that's okay.
No, hit it.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Please do your part. Vote. Hashtag 559vote. Get your voice out there. And if you don't vote, you don't get a reason to bitch or complain about anything. You sacrifice your ability to complain about the system if you don't participate in it. I hold firmly to that. So if you complain and you tell me you didn't vote because your vote doesn't matter or whatever, just shut up. Stop talking to me. I'll be voting. I don't know yet who I'll be voting for, but thank you, all of you guys, for being a part of this.
Reminder, everyone, voting is June 7th. If you're not sure where your polling place is, you can call the Fresno County clerk. They should be able to either A, tell you, or you should have received a sample ballot in the mail, which will tell you on the back where your polling place is.
Thank you. I did not know that. Got it. I'm at Sierra and Fresno.
So just more as important as getting out and voting is you got to know where you got to go. So.
All right, well, get on out there. Next week, we go back to our normal type of thing. We got comedian Andrew Boydston coming in. He's actually fresh off of the Nerdist. He's been hanging out with that homeboy. So,
can I still wear my vest?
Yes, you can definitely wear your vest,
awesome.
But don't ask him any constitutional questions.
I got a whole pop quiz here that's going to get used.
Normally, I sign off with word, but we haven't heard from the other side of Jeremy. Can you sign us off with a little Elvis tonight?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening to this debate. I trust it was informative, and so go out and do your civic duty, baby, and vote on June 7th. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Word. Vote.
You've been listening to the Dirty Dowdy Podcast on Longbox.FM. The opinions expressed on the Dirty Dowdy Podcast aren't necessarily those of staff, management, or sponsors. The Dirty Dowdy Podcast is a presentation of Longbox.FM.